The Japanese salmon fishing fleet now spends about 40 days each summer in the waters of the United States Conservation Zone in the North Pacific. Fishing for salmon using cheap, invisible monofilament gill nets, an estimated 700,000 seabirds and 12,000 Dall's porpoise are killed annually in an unnecessary fishery. The Rainbow Warrior, flagship of the international environmental organization Greenpeace, carrying a crew of concerned individuals, set their course to the cold Arctic waters of Alaska, determined to intercept the Japanese fishing fleet. One of these gill net fisheries is the 172-ship Japanese salmon fleet, which fishes U.S. waters of the Bering Sea each summer. The fishermen deploy the 9-mile-long mesh gill nets around sunset and haul them up shortly after sunrise on the following day. These gill nets capture everything that bumps into them during the night, and when the nets are brought in, salmon is not their only load.
Greenpeace has been in touch with Japan's Federation of Salmon Fisheries Cooperative since 1980. We've asked that they modify their nets immediately to reduce the kill of dolphins and stop setting their nets within 75 miles of designated seabird sanctuaries.
On June the 22nd, in the peak of a cold northern summer, the ship Rainbow Warrior leaves Dutch Harbor, Alaska. This 150-foot converted fishing vessel is the flagship of the international conservation organization Greenpeace. The ship's crew, most of whom are not professional sailors, have come from the United States, Europe, Canada, Africa, Japan, and other parts of the world to work together towards a common goal. Expedition leader Eddie Chavies discusses the characteristics of the Dall's porpoise and procedures of the campaign.
They're freaking out the entire time. I mean, they're just twisting and turning and smashing their flukes, and that's how they get more and more caught. Dolphins, when they're caught in the nets, thrash their flukes around an awful lot. They're really freaking out because they're getting caught a little bit, and they start banging their tails and rolling and getting more and more entangled.
Barbara, were you serious about wanting to switch to a wetsuit?
I feel more mobile in the wetsuit, and I think that I could probably stand it for a little while, a few minutes at least, if I was wearing wool underneath it. However, you did say that the water was colder out here than it was at Dutch Harbor, so I can't say for sure, but I think I could last long enough in the wetsuit.
1 week later, the Rainbow Warrior enters the gill net fishing area, a part of the seas known to mariners as no man's land.
7.3 miles away. In the area where we can start seeing our friends at any time. Tomorrow's Sunday. It'll be a day off on all drills unless we see the fishing fleet, in which case it will be business as usual.
The Rainbow Warriors practice launching the inflatable boats time and time again, realizing that speed and efficiency will be the important factors in saving marine wildlife.
There we go. Shape it up now. Shape it up.
Sometimes getting back on board may be more difficult than leaving. Early morning hours on July the 4th, the weather worsened. At first light, the gale-force winds pushed the seas up to 16-foot swell. It became necessary for the Rainbow Warrior to seek safe shelter. 12 hours later, the Greenpeace vessel reaches the nearest safe anchorage. Attu, uninhabited, the westernmost island in the Aleutian chain, is a welcome sight to the Rainbow Warrior's crew. While at anchor, a private Swedish sailing vessel en route from Japan to the United States appears through the fog. Amazingly, this small vessel had originated in Hokkaido, home port of the Japanese fleet, and through a bit of unusual luck, was able to obtain a computer printout of fleet positions.
We're talking about how hard it is to find the Japanese factory boats because they're so fast compared to our boat, and how it would help to have some information as to where the factory boats were. And we heard some voices off the beam and turned around and looked, and here's these two people flying the Swedish flag. Coming out of the mist and just asking if they could throw a line aboard. We said sure. Yeah, we found out they had a chart from the Japanese fisheries stating the times and places that the factory boats would be at, which will be a great asset to us. We just have to test it out now, see if it's accurate.
The next day, after leaving Attu,
A very large target is coming our way.
a fishing vessel, the Yahiko Maru, is spotted.
Got him in the crosshairs.
The crew on the bridge stays calm, waiting for identification.
Picking gear, you mean? Yeah, he's following got a big old blob on the back of him. That's supposed to be a net? No, that's it right here. That's exactly what it looks like. Okay.
When positive identification is made, Captain Peter Wilcox is called to the bridge. Orders are given for divers to suit up. Luckily, part of the 9-mile gill net is still in the water, so the fishing boat cannot escape the Rainbow Warrior.
Just keep him in the crosshairs. Keep him hidden by the mast there. You got him.
Yeah, got it.
The birds are trapped in the nets. Divers quickly enter the water. From the Japanese Fishing Bureau, the captain of the Yahiko Maru attempts to escape the Rainbow Warrior before the Greenpeace inflatable can be loaded.
We found a lot of seabirds in the net, no dolphins. What we're going to do now is follow them, see where it goes. It's either going to go to a factory ship or it's just going to go to another set of nets. If it goes to another set of nets, we got to be ready to do that all over again.
The gill netter deploys its 9-mile-long net in the early morning hours. As the divers are preparing to enter the water, another vessel appears, an ex-whaling boat, the Shonen Maru No. 2, employed by the Japanese Fisheries Bureau to police and protect its fishing boats.
It was about 2 feet under the surface. We got to it just in time. Probably drank a lot of water. We took him back to the boat, give him a warm bath and some hot milk.
During this 40-day fishing period, over 700,000 seabirds are killed in these monofilament gill nets. Most of these birds nest in the United States Aleutian Islands Wildlife Sanctuary. Suddenly, the boat is radioed. A Dall's porpoise has been found trapped in the net. Unfortunately, this rescue came too late. The young pregnant female was dead. She must have put up a terrific struggle. Her body was wrapped in 5 layers of monofilament gill net, and her tail was wrapped a full 8 times. Over 90% of all female porpoises found entangled in the nets are either pregnant or nursing mothers.
Morning, freeing seabirds and
and one doll porpoise this morning. Between Peter and I, both of us in this boat, probably saw maybe 300 to 400 dead seabirds, various species. We probably were able to save maybe 40 to 50 of them.
The crew of the Rainbow Warrior decide to confront the Japanese fishermen face to face. Interpreter Kang Fabon informs the Japanese fishermen that hundreds of seabirds and one dead Dall's porpoise were found in their gill net. Kang reiterates the Greenpeace position which had been communicated to their fishery over the previous 2 years. The deaths of tens of thousands of Dall's porpoise and hundreds of thousands of seabirds is completely unnecessary. The captain of the Yahiko Maru refuses to meet with Greenpeace to discuss problems. The fishing boat moves away. Kang Fabon, speaking directly to the Japanese Fisheries Bureau ship, requests a meeting with fisheries officials aboard that vessel. The request is denied, and instead of meeting, the vessel moves out of sight, away from the Rainbow Warrior. Given no alternative, the decision is made to follow the fishing boat and prevent it from setting its net.
We've been trying to approach the officials' boats, but every time that we get close to them with our inflatables, they turn away and go full speed away from us and do everything they can to avoid letting us get close to them. And we're signaling that we want to communicate with them. We've been trying to call them on the radio, and they've responded a couple of times, and the final response was, we will not respond to you any longer.
Fighting fog, icy waters, spray, and riding in these rough seas for hours does not dampen the spirits of these volunteers. They are determined to stay close to the stern of the Yahiko Maru and prevent it from setting its deadly nets. As the fog sets in, the fishing boat slows down.
Now the inflatables are at the stern of the Japanese fishing boat. We hope to stop the net from going out. We want to get the word out just how deadly these nets are, not only to the sea mammals, but also the hundreds of thousands of seabirds.
When the fishing boat stops to lower the radio buoy and the rest of the 9-mile-long gill net, the Greenpeacers use their inflatable boats to stop the setting of the deadly net. Confused, the fishermen tie up buoys and wait for orders from their captain.
We want them to modify their nets. It's not going to be that expensive for them to do by next year, not 4 years from now.
The fishermen now have no choice but to listen.
He asked you, are you interrupting our setting the net?
Well, yeah.
The Japanese captain finally orders the engine shut down. The hours pass slowly as the volunteers wait patiently in the cold, wet, and windy waters. They know as long as the blockade is occurring that hundreds of seabirds and some dolphins, which would otherwise have died, now would survive. At first light, when the salmon are returning to the depths of the ocean, too deep to be netted, the Greenpeacers, after spending 14 successful hours in the inflatables, return to the Rainbow Warrior. It will be a long, dirty job to try to keep pelagic gill netters from strip mining all oceans.